all content featuring Russell Brand from Big Brother to Bake Off has been removed from both Channel 4 and BBC streaming services as they carry out a probe into the rape and sexual assault allegations made against him, all of which, of course, he denies. It comes as the BBC Director General Tim Davies said yesterday that some of the content is unacceptable. Well, joining me now, ITV News UK editor Paul Brand and editor of the Daily Mirror, Alison Phillips. So, the latest then. The latest, Paul, where are we?
Well, essentially stripping all forms of monetisation from Russell Brand. So, as you say, the YouTube videos, the ads have been taken off there, the ads have been taken off his podcasts. He still has these other platforms, though. Some people might not have heard of them. Rumble was one. That was new to me this week. It's a platform where they're a bit freer to talk about whatever they want to talk about on there. It's less likely that they would try and take down some of his content. So he's still got that as a way of monetising all of his work. But essentially, he is being kind of slowly cancelled, really, from all of his platforms.
So they debated it yesterday, didn't they, in Parliament? What was the outcome of that, then?
Not really an outcome at this stage. They're just asking a lot of questions of Channel 4 and the BBC, because in hindsight, some of Russell Brand's jokes now look like confessions, if it wasn't for the fact that he so strenuously denies all of these claims. And so there are big questions, I think, for the industry around, was there a permissive culture? Was he allowed to get away with things that he shouldn't have been allowed to get away with? And also, I think, on the positive side, the one thing all of this has shown us all is that how far society has come since those days.
In a short time? Alison, in a relatively short time?
Yes. I mean, I was really shocked the other day when they were replaying some of the things he said when he had his Radio 2 show and thinking, gosh, I would have been listening to that at the time, and millions of people were listening to that at the time, but did we really sort of think that is horrendous, which listening to it now, you absolutely do. So I think some of it, yes, we have changed, and a lot of things are now deemed to be unacceptable, and women would just say, no, that is unacceptable. However, I do worry that maybe a lot of those attitudes remain. They're not as visible, and so a lot of women might be experiencing this kind of content on social media, in WhatsApp groups, or in places that it's not publicly visible.
It's so interesting, isn't it? Now, I interviewed him a lot, you know, over that time when he was very, very famous and in the public eye. I usually got the charming Russell, the flirty Russell. Of course, it's different. I'm a lot older. I've been doing this for a long, long time. So it's I would like to think, a little tiny bit of respect there, maybe. Although, this happened on the Graham Norton Show. Now, it was back in 2007, but have a look. Now, look, that's uncomfortable to watch that now. It absolutely is. Obviously, for the record, I was not wearing suspenders at all. Everybody was laughing. I was laughing.
How did you feel, though, in that moment?
I must admit, well, it's difficult. Now, looking back on it now, I probably would have said something, but it's an entertainment show, it's late night. That was his shtick. That's what he was not just doing, but actively encouraged to do.
And that's
the scandal, isn't
that
it?
whole thing about he was hiding in plain sight. He wasn't really pretending that he was anything
at
other
all.
than...
That was him.
But the culture was such at that point that that was OK, and it was laughing.
And it's not that long ago.
It's not that long ago. But it's interesting, I just want to say one thing. It's interesting that you started a minute ago by saying, by the way, I wasn't wearing suspenders. So still, as a woman, you're feeling that you've got to justify yourself.
Absolutely. You're 100% right. You're 100% right. And as we say, he has denied everything. He's denied all of these things. And it was... I do wonder, would I put up with that now? Would that actually have been aired now? Are we in a different place, or is it just all gone underground, as Alison was saying?
I think we are in a different place. I do agree with Alison that some of this is going underground and it's going on to sort of WhatsApp groups where men are just joking about women and making inappropriate comments and sharing inappropriate photos. I mean, we've been investigating the fire service this year, for example, where firefighters have been sharing photos of women who've died in car crashes and things like that and commenting on their bodies. So, yeah, these are really awful things that are still going on. And we had the Met Police yesterday, didn't we? Did you see that story, Lorraine, about the Met Police having about 1,000 officers currently either suspended or unrestricted duties because of gross misconduct, lots of them towards women. So I think this is still going on, but I still feel optimistic that what it also shows us is that there is this kind of cultural revolution that's happened over the past 10 years, where at least it's not acceptable, not publicly acceptable anymore to do this kind of stuff.
Because I think you're right, a lot of what he did would never have aired. I mean, you think about it, it was on mainstream. I mean, you mentioned the Radio 2 stuff, and we all know about the Andrew Sachs scandal and all of that, which he was called out about, of course. But he does have a lot of support. We're not just talking about a small band of people here. There's millions of people that support him.
Yes, he's got something like 13 million followers on his YouTube channel, where he spent the last few years peddling all sorts of bizarre conspiracy theories, sort of lots of anti-vax stuff. And we know that there is a big swathe of people who feel that they're not getting the correct information from the mainstream media, as they like to deem it, and they're going more and more towards people such as Russell Brand and Donald Trump, another opponent of the mainstream media, who are able to create their own narratives of what they think is the truth.
Yeah.
And people aren't seeing the other side of the story. And I think, and then when something like this happens, they'll just believe what they want to believe.
And that all plays into the narrative, doesn't it? The fact that he has been effectively, as you said, cancelled by, people at YouTube and all of that, the BBC, Channel 4, all of the, all his back catalogue being erased, just plays into the hands of people who think it's all a conspiracy, doesn't it? Because they'll just think, oh, well, they would do that, wouldn't they?
And the same standards don't always apply online. If you look at broadcasters who've been in the spotlight recently, at mainstream broadcasters, often that has been dealt with. I mean, we might debate whether or not it was dealt with quickly enough or over the years it had been forgotten about and brushed under the carpet. But ultimately, when the scandal exploded, both the BBC and also ITV's had a bit of it lately, at least those organisations have dealt with the scandal, whereas Russell Brand can go online and just deny it all.
Of course he can.
And he still has his platform on Rumble or whatever it might be.
Yeah.
And we've seen it with other people on other platforms in recent months as well. So, I think that there is a sort of a difference in standards, isn't there, between television or film and this online world where you can kind of say whatever you want.
And anything goes, and somebody like him has this almost like cult-like following, which is completely, the truth is utterly matterless.
That's true. The thing about it is, at least in the world of the media, it is in plain sight in his case, but it's visible, it's much more visible. This is going on in what I would like to call the real world, isn't it? This is happening, there are those attitudes. And I would really like to think that young women, in particular, don't have to put up with this, because you and me put up with it.
I do think so.
So that they didn't have to put up
when
with
you watch
it,
that Graham Norton clip and everyone's laughing along, you really had no alternative slightly but to laugh along in that situation. Otherwise, you would have been deemed to be prudish and boring and all that.
Yeah, and in the context
of I think women probably of our generation, we spent a lifetime laughing along with things that weren't funny, but just because it was felt that if we didn't, then... and because it was that male dominance of so many rooms that we were in, whereas I think that's what's changing. And when there's a balance now that if you've got enough women that you make eye contact and think this is not OK, then it'll be deemed to be not OK.
And more women are at the top of business, life, all of that.
And journalism too, which I think is partly why this has become such a big story, whereas in previous years, maybe a male editor would have looked at it and said, oh, it's a bit grubby, I don't think we should do it.
That's a really good point, actually. Thank you both so much. This isn't going anywhere, and we do have to say that Russell Brand has denied all of these accusations, so we shall just see what happens in the coming days and weeks.